Hello and welcome to Leicester Fan TV for a impromptu show. I was going to do this last night, but it was late, and I thought I'll save it for today. So I'll have Reedy with me as well in a second. But it is, of course, transfer news. It is the news that kind of struck the internet last night. It wasn't that big of a surprise, in my opinion, just because obviously there was always doubts of whether he'd leave or not. But Dewsbury-Hall to either Chelsea or Brighton. I think it started off like 6 o'clock with David Ornstein reporting that Chelsea are interested in him. Enzo Maresca might want to sign him. And then obviously later on, Fabrizio Romano and also a Polish journalist dropped the bombshell that there was some type of swap deal between Dewsbury-Hall and Jacob Moder from Brighton. I'll get into it. I'll give my opinion on what I think the deal would look like, but let's get Reedy in as well so he can have a chat with us. Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. So first proper bit of transfer news, I'd say. This window. Unfortunately, it's not an in. Well, it is an in, maybe. Dewsbury-Hall. Let's start with the Chelsea rumour first, because that's what came first. David Ornstein. He said that Chelsea were interested in Dewsbury-Hall. He also said that Chelsea is the only team that Dewsbury-Hall would want to leave Leicester for.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I want to ask: are you surprised that Enzo has come in for Dewsbury-Hall, or did you expect it, or what? Because I thought maybe I don't think Dewsbury-Hall's a starter for Chelsea, in my opinion. I spoke to Chelsea fan last night. I was saying the same thing. But I don't know what you think to the whole Chelsea side of it.
When the obviously rumor when we didn't sell him earlier on to Brighton, I didn't think he was going to go. I think because obviously we did get the aim of getting back into the Premier League. I thought, do you know what? I don't think he will go because he's now a Premier League quality player. Again, for me, Brighton alone, I don't think it's an upgrade in a way. They're not going to get anywhere near Europe, in my opinion, with how it doesn't look like he's getting anything higher than. Yes, we might be in a relegation battle, but we're in the Premier League just as much as Brighton is. So that side of it, yeah, I didn't get it. With the Chelsea side of it, it's literally down to Maresca. That is literally the reason why they want him in a way. They wouldn't have gone for him if Potter was in charge there or Mauricio Pochettino was there. They wouldn't have gone for Dewsbury. It's because Enzo likes him. I don't get why when he's got someone like Palmer, like he's like probably a 5 to 10 times better player than Dewsbury, in my opinion, Palmer. But it is what it is. Again, I've seen loads of rumours saying about if we do sell Dewsbury and we get some money for him, and with obviously Enzo Maresca's money that we got compensation for, it might be enough to stop the points deduction. I don't know too much about it, but again, if it did stop the point deduction and we did get away with it because we sold him, I'd be all up for it.
Well, just to clarify, because I do see people saying the same thing online. This would only stop the points deduction for next season
Oh,
in the
okay.
champ. So the points deduction that we're going to get this season is happening. No matter what we do in this window, that is happening because that was for the 22-23 period, which we got relegated. That's what we're getting punished for this year. Now, selling Dewsbury, well, whatever we do FFP wise now is basically, well, before Sunday, actually, before June the 30th, that helps us towards whatever deduction or whatever punishment we would get next year, if that makes sense. So from what we've seen with the EFL and the Premier League unable to enforce Premier League deductions. That's why we didn't get one last year. If we get relegated this season coming up, we could get a points deduction in the Championship the following season. So selling Dewsbury-Hall, Enzo's compensation, that would prevent that from happening. And let's be honest, mate, the chances are we will be in the Championship next year. You know, I mean, the chances
with,
are...
with everything that's going on with the point deduction, with the players we've got, and again, we won't be able to bring too many players in, there is probably 70% chance there that we probably will be going back down because of everything that's going on. If we get that 30% going our way and we do somehow stay up with everything that's going on, we've kind of done the miracle in a way, in my opinion. But like I say, it all depends on how well we do, how well we buy players and sell players. Again, if Dewsbury goes, we need to get that replacement in ASAP. But like you said, for me, Dewsbury-Hall does not get into that starting 11 for Chelsea.
Well, just to talk, just last bit on FFP before we move on. I believe, Ivan, the reason that this, and you've seen all week, deals have been rushed. This week you saw, I'm going to talk about this a bit more, the Villa and Everton and Chelsea and whatever swap deals that we've seen. The reason that's all happening now, as is the Dewsbury-Hall stuff, is because we're trying to get it done in this accounting period, not next accounting period. So I believe, Ivan, that it's the reason we're doing it now is to help this accounting period, not the 25-26. Right. There is more to be said on FFP. So I want to actually get over to the next part of this story, because it is heavily, in my opinion, it is heavily linked to FFP. And that is that Fabrizio Romano reported that I think it was, here you go. So Brighton and Leicester agree on a swap deal. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall to Brighton and Jacob Moder to Leicester. Medical already booked for both. And then Romano, obviously, because loads of Leicester fans were going into meltdown because it didn't sound like there was a fee as well. But Romano's clarified that, of course, there is money involved in part of the agreement. So that, to me, I'll just give my opinion on it, right? So I think that this is actually going to come out later on as a similar type of deal to what we saw earlier in the week with Aston Villa and Chelsea and Everton, where they were swapping players, but actually money was involved. So like Amari Kellyman, I think his name is, from Villa, went to Chelsea for like 20 million quid, right? Someone who's he's played like 2 Premier League games. He's gone to Chelsea for 20 million quid. And in return, Chelsea have sent Ian Maatsen the other way for like 20 some, however many million. So these are inflated prices, because then it allows those transfer fees to basically, so to give an example, in this case, 50 million quid, let's say, that Brighton pay Leicester for Dewsbury-Hall. That 50 million goes towards Leicester's financial fair play or profit and sustainability now. But if we then pay Brighton 20 million for Moder, we can spread that 20 million across the duration of Moder's contract at Leicester. So in theory, we're not paying 50 million. Brighton aren't paying 50 million pound. They're more like maybe paying 40, because we're then paying them. It feels similar as well to the Harry Winks and James Maddison situation last summer, where Tottenham paid 40. We paid, was it 10? And you're able to write the fees off over the length of a contract. So we're getting paid now. The 50 million to us goes off FFP right now, but the 20 million we're spending is actually spread over 4 years or 5 years, however long the deal is. So it helps FFP that way. It's really confusing, and I don't like talking about it too much because it's just blah, 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 blah. But that's how I see it. Reedy, I don't know about you, mate, but Jacob Moder doesn't scream out to me like a type of player Leicester would be going for in normal circumstances. He's scored, he's done nothing impressive, right? He was apparently, speaking to Brighton fans, he was a good player before his ACL injury. He played like 16 times this season after coming back from injury, just only 6 starts. But it feels like the only reason it's happening is because we're getting a replacement basically for free, and it helps out our FFP situation.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't know too much about Moder. I've just searched him up now to make sure I get a bit of detail on him. But again, where did he come from to go to Brighton? I'm not too sure. But there's obviously a reason Brighton went for him. He obviously hasn't had the best of seasons last year. I'm pretty sure he didn't score a goal last year, was he?
Well, he actually came from a Polish club, Lech Poznan. I think they are. And
it looks Polish. It looks like he's playing in the Polish team as well.
He got called up to the Euros. They paid £6 million for him in 2020, and then from what I've heard, he did all right, and he got his ACL injury, and he was actually out. It sounded like the mother of all ACL injuries as well, by the way, because he was out for about nearly 2 years.
I just don't know. I just don't know how well that sort of player would fit, because obviously Dewsbury-Hall knows the system quite well. Obviously, that was Maresca's system. Now it might change. Now somebody else, as in Cooper, came in. It might change how he plays. It might make him a better player. But you never know. Dewsbury-Hall might have not been as good if he does stay under Cooper. You never know. So any player could do better under certain managers. You don't know. So again, it's probably not. You're probably giving away a better player than we are getting back. But overall, at least we're getting someone in return, instead of maybe going out and buying this random player that just doesn't do anything for us. And he knows the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, Jacob Moder, just so people, because I mean, I was the same until I did a bit more research. He's a similar player to Dewsbury-Hall in the way that he can play in the 10, in the 8, in the 6, maybe. But he's definitely a little bit more defensive than Dewsbury-Hall is. He is. He's not that box to box midfielder in a way, or making late runs into the box. I think what's important to remember, by the way, guys, because I saw comparisons going on Twitter yesterday. Dewsbury-Hall only scored like 3 goals for Leicester before last season, right? Or last season was I don't want to be harsh and say it's an anomaly for Dewsbury-Hall. He's clearly capable of scoring goals, but he was playing in a much more advanced position than he ever did, and I'm sorry to say it, championship tax. You never know what Jacob Moder would do in the championship. I mean, he scored a few goals in the Polish league. He scored 7, 14, 20, 22 goals in the Polish leagues. Looking at his stats there. So, he can score goals in a lower league, right? I think a lot of players could. So I don't want people to, I keep seeing people say, well, Dewsbury-Hall scored, however many goals last season, 11, 12, and Jacob Moder's only scored 2 for Brighton. I'm like, it doesn't work. You can't look at football like that. You can't. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst of signings, mate. I think, you're getting money, which helps FFP. You're also getting a free, I say replacement lightly, because you'd hope we would get someone better as well, but it's another man in midfield. So, we don't know the 100% confirmation on Wilfred and Didi yet. So, but we needed a midfielder anyway. Even if everybody stayed, we still needed another man. So it's not awful, is it, mate? I mean, the meltdown came because people thought it was just a straight swap, no money. I don't know why anyone would think that would be Rudkin's an idiot, but he's not that stupid. It's not terrible, is it? It's not the end, especially because a lot of us had actually accepted that he probably would leave this summer.
I wouldn't say it's the worst deal. I just don't think you'd go to Brighton. I think that's the most.
You mean on his side of it?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Yes, he might be back in the Championship next season, but as it stands, we're a Premier League side. If he wants a chance to bring his own boyhood club and keep them up in the Premier League, why not do that? Don't get me wrong. You might want to stay in the Premier League, and there might be a chance that we don't. So maybe he wants to stick himself as a Premier League standard player. But in my eyes, I think it might be a bit of a stupid move. He goes to Chelsea, fair enough, because again, Maresca's there. Chelsea are a lot better quality side. But for me, I don't see the aspiration for Brighton.
Well, what I said earlier is the other day I called him a sacrificial lamb, and people in the chat who are a bit older than me and Reedy will remember that something similar happened with Matt Piper. That wasn't FFP, but it was administration and financial ruin at the club. Matt Piper did not want to leave Leicester City to join Sunderland. He just didn't want to go. Yet the club said to him, you have to go. I think it was £3.5 million or £4 million at the time. And the club said, you have to go, because if you don't go, we're not going to be able to pay our staff, our canteen staff, or, the kit man and people like this in and around the club. We can't pay them. Obviously, it's not that extreme now, but the sale of Dewsbury-Hall could be the difference between, let's say we get relegated next season, this season. It could be the difference of getting points deducted in the Championship or not. We've pissed the championship off a lot, the EFL. They will want to hit us with the most extreme punishment, I'm sure, that they can legally do if we do get relegated and we break FFP. So I think the club are probably telling Dewsbury-Hall, like, you have to go. I think that genuinely might be the case, because who else have we got?
Didn't Barnes get that move as well when he went to Newcastle?
Yeah, Barnes was similar. I think Barnes obviously was probably a bit more willing to go, since it was Newcastle. They were exciting at the time. Obviously, they were Champions League and all that. I imagine he would be a bit more willing to go. But yeah, the story is apparently that Barnes wasn't overly keen on going. And sometimes this is just what happens. I think. What was I going to say? You've got to think, what other sellable assets have we got at the club that will make that much of an impact towards FFP? And what I mean by that is, if you sell Hermanson, you're not going to make that much money in terms of profit and sustainability, because we only bought Hermanson last summer, right? We bought him last summer. We already paid some money for him. So that is not as impactful on the profit and sustainability as Dewsbury-Hall, who didn't cost any money, who's been at the club a long time, homegrown. It's pure profit. So, but if you do Hermanson, who's only been here a year, 1 year into a 4-year deal or 5-year deal, whatever it is, it doesn't make that much. It's less leeway on the FFP. Same with Mavididi. Not like he would go for much money anyway. Dewsbury-Hall is the most expensive player in terms of transfer value, market value, I suppose, in our squad. So that is why he is the sacrificial lamb, in my opinion. Whether he wants to go or not, I think he'd probably be open to the idea of Chelsea, Reedy. I think he probably would be open to it with Enzo Maresca. Don't think he'll play much, but
I think that is going to be the main deal for me. As much as we obviously heard that it was basically all but nearly confirmed that it was going to Brighton, and then Chelsea was like, it's basically falling apart because Chelsea was interested in him. Again, I wouldn't mind him going to Chelsea, because again, Maresca was there. He was probably one of Maresca's best players for that sort of style. So maybe he wants someone to go align with Palmer on the other side, like we did with Wilfred Ndidi and him together. You maybe want him and Palmer. You never know.
Yeah, I hear what you say, mate. I think, I mean, I've always put Dewsbury-Hall down as maybe, you'd have thought that he's a bit smart in terms of career choices. I think he even could have left last summer, right? I think he could have left last summer if he really pushed it. He didn't. He stayed around, and look at the season he had. His market value in a way, or his attractiveness has gone up because of last season. I think the thing is, to be honest, mate, I just think that's what it is. In my head, the rumour is he's down in Brighton, or he was yesterday, right? And Jacob Moder apparently was at Seagrave last night having his medical. Very quick turnaround again, which is why I believe it's so heavily linked to FFP. They're trying to get it done by Sunday. Obviously, the Chelsea bid has put a spanner in the works. But yeah, just going back to what I was saying about whether he's smart or not, you've got to look at people like Danny Drinkwater, mate, who went there. And I say Chilwell loosely. I'm not sure. Chilwell's done all right, I suppose. He's played a lot of games. He has played a lot of games. But Danny Drinkwater, he went there. He sat on the bench. He weren't happy. He ended up 2 foot and a 16-year-old in a reserve match. He ended up drink driving. He ended up getting into fights abroad.
What do you mean? You just don't want him to ruin his career by going somewhere.
Well, exactly, because I imagine if you go to a club and you sit on the bench for months and months and months and months, it can have a negative impact on your mentality, I suppose. And then football maybe does then become just about money,
Dewsbury-Hall knows if he stays at Leicester, he will be probably one of the first names on that sheet.
Yeah.
Whereas if he goes to Chelsea, there's every chance that he's just a reserve or a bench player.
Yeah, I think this is down to the club at the end of the day, because let's be honest, mate, if Dewsbury-Hall stayed for another year and we got relegated, he'd just move on next summer instead. Mm-hmm. That's what could happen. Someone would still buy him next summer. So let's just look at a few of the comments. Be interesting to see if Samari, Suter, Luke Thomas Christensen, just to name a few. KDH leaving is a massive loss, but not surprising. Palmer would be Enzo's right winger. KDH would be I don't think they were. Scott, do you think Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall would play ahead of some of the big money signings that Chelsea have made?
Mudryk, no chance.
Enzo Fernandez, Mudryk, Caicedo. I don't rate Caicedo, by the way, but still, Caicedo's there. I can't see it personally. I can't see it. I think he will be a backup. We have a habit of selling players to Chelsea that get injured. Chilwell, Fofana. Yeah, well, Dewsbury-Hall's got a pretty good record of medical record. Say we sell Dewsbury-Hall, then how much can we spend in the summer if we are clear of FFP? David, I don't think it affects what we do after June. I honestly don't. I think this is all about complying with FFP before June 30th, so that we don't get a future deduction. I think, you know, who knows what we're going to do this summer. Reedy, here's a question for you, mate. Would you take the sale of Dewsbury-Hall if it meant we don't get a double points deduction, and we're able to maybe make 25-30 million pound reinvestment in the squad?
Well, it depends if you get relegated, though, because that, like you said, would we get the point deduction next year in the Premier League if we stayed up?
We don't know. We don't know. We don't know, because we don't know what the rules are.
Then I'd say yes, because I wouldn't want to go to the Championship again and start on a negative points. You'd want to not start on a negative points. But if you stay in the Premier League, then obviously, we don't get the points deduction, then I'd rather keep him, because again, he could be that the next, like, we could be selling him for 60-70 million in the next couple of years if we stayed. So it is what it is. Again, it seems weird to say now that he's probably our most valuable asset in a way, because we've had, like I say, all the likes of all the players that throughout the last few years who were going for bloody 60-70 million, and now he's our most valuable asset. But I don't know. Again, as long as we invest wisely with the money, if he does go, then fair enough. I don't see the team that started most games in the Championship change much, because I just don't think many players will be able to change the system. Again, if Cooper brings out a back three with two wing backs, are we even going to see Fatu and Mabadidi much? I don't know. Maybe not. But then you're basically losing out on your most, I wouldn't say quality assets, but they're players that will affect the attack very much.
Yeah, I hear the talk of Steve Cooper not playing. I think Steve Cooper will play wingers. With the wingers that we have, or that we will have, I think he will play wingers. I don't think there's too much to worry about that. What I was going to say, Reedy, was, what you were saying about the names that we've sold before, and I'll try and do this in order. I think it was Kante, Drinkwater, Mahrez, Maguire, Chilwell, Fofana, Maddison, Barnes. You know, every year, right? And we had 1 year, I think, where we didn't do it. We didn't spend. Well,
we didn't.
No, we did. Yeah, we ended up doing Fofana, didn't we? Chilwell went that year. We spent loads on Daka and Sumar.
I'm pretty sure 1 year. I'm pretty sure 1 year we didn't sell anyone, but we brought players in.
I thought that was the year.
That was when Vestergaard, Daka, and Thingy came in. That was the year I think we didn't sell anyone, and we brought them three in.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that year. Yeah. That's where the decline began. Sorry. Yeah. So you've seen, bar 1 year, every year we've sold one or two big money sales to fund reinvestment in the squad, and it worked up until that year that you were talking about. So I don't think it's a bad thing if we do this. I think you sell Dewsbury-Hall, it helps towards FFP. You've also got some cash in the bank that you can, because you've got to remember, we get the money in before June 30th, which helps FFP, but then you've still got that money after June 30th, so then you can spend some of it, right? So that's how it works. So it will help reinvestment in the squad. I 100% understand some of the upset from fans who's saying that he's our best player and all of this. And of course, it was the same when Mahrez left. It was the same when Mahrez left. It was the same. Mahrez was our best player. He left, and it was slow, but we built upon it. And Rod just came in, and we had good times then again. So just because we're getting rid of Dewsbury-Hall, who's 25 years old and the heartbeat of the team, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have another player like that. Leicester have time and time again, bar Mahrez, being able to replace players that they've sold. Another player's come in and done probably an okay job to start with, and ends up doing a really good job. Same with Maguire.
I don't think losing Dewsbury, as much as people probably go shit on me for it, I don't think losing him will be the end of it. I don't. I feel like, again, there will be a replacement if it's Moda or if it's someone else. Yep. They will do either as good a job or maybe a bit worse. Again, it doesn't matter who it is. It's just because of what Dewsbury means to us at the moment. Again, he's a homegrown player. Obviously, the England tax as well, like I say, homegrown as well. So there's so many reasons why he's so important to us. But I don't think as an actual player, if he was at any other club, I don't think we would have minded in a way that if we gets replaced with just as good as a player, really. And again, we've been linked with that Carvalho again, haven't we? And I'd be like more than happy to take him over Dewsbury-Hall if it's cool, if it's on like assists and goals wise, because he did enough for that for Hull. So
Yeah, Scott, just in case you were here, mate, I was trying to explain why we're selling Dewsbury-Hall over someone like Hermanson, because it's not as beneficial to sell Hermanson for FFP reasons, because it's not a pure profit with Hermanson. He's only 1 year into a 4-year or 5-year deal. So the amortization, whatever it is, all the weird little details, it's just not as effective. If you sell Dewsbury-Hall, let's just say, I mean, I've heard 50 and then we're spending for Moda, but let's just say it's 40 million quid. It's pure profit. In terms of transfer profit, it is pure profit that gets written off FFP. I can't remember how much we spent.
I'd never want to sell Hermanson anyway.
How much did we buy him for?
Who?
Was it 5? Hermanson?
I think maybe 5 to 7, I think.
Let's say it's 5. You sell Hermanson for 20, let's say, or 25. There's 20 million profit, right? Because you've got to take into account the 5 million you spent on him, whereas Dewsbury-Hall is pure profit. Just to hear as well what Carlos says. I mean, Katie's decent last, but he's not married. I personally think Dewsbury-Hall is replaceable. I think Dewsbury-Hall is more replaceable than if we didn't sign Fatawu, or he's more replaceable than what Hermanson would be, right? That's what I believe. People disagree. That's fair enough, but that's what I think. So
I feel like, and this is a big statement because he's only played in the Championship for us. I think Fatawu is the closest replacement we have to Mahrez from the quality we've seen, like skill wise, pace wise. Again, down the wing, you can beat a man. Do you know what I mean? That is the closest we've ever been to a Mahrez replacement. As much as, again, he's never done it in the Premier League, so we don't know for sure. But from what we've seen of him, his quality-wise, even if it was against Championship teams, he's there. And like I say, I would have much preferred to sign him and get rid of Dewsbury-Hall than sign Dewsbury-Hall and lose Fatawu in my eyes. Because he's such a young player as well. He could go for 60-70 million in the next couple of years.
Yeah. One more thing I just wanted to bring up on screen, which is what I was talking about a little bit. So John Percy's reported that the Premier League have written to 20 clubs to remind them they'll be punished for fraudulent player transfers as scrutiny grows on the so-called swap deals. So these are the swap deals that I was talking about earlier. I do think we are, at the time when I was seeing it, it was like you'd hear Villa want a player from Chelsea, and then like half an hour later, okay, now Chelsea want a player from Villa, and then Everton and Villa, and it's like something weird's going on here. And it's probably a loophole, and they'll probably get away with it. And because of that, we need to get involved. And in my opinion, that is what's happening. I think that is why. Unless, I'm not ruling Chelsea out, mate. I think if Chelsea came up and gave us more money, gave us cash, a lot more cash, and I think we'll accept it. And also, I must say, Chelsea might offer us some type of swap deal. Chelsea, I know
as long as they don't give us
Gallagher. Well, no, we won't get him. He's going to a bigger club, better club. But Hutchinson, I know Ipswich are trying to get him now, but I'd take him at Leicester. You just never know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm sure they're busy right now.
Give us Enzo Fernandez, mate.
Yeah. Give us Chilwell, but I'm joking. But no, let's not forget Fatawu hasn't signed permanently yet, Keith. It'll be done. Once you see that 30th of June pass this Sunday, so starting from Monday, the 1st of July, I think we'll start to see a lot more. He
has to sign anyway, doesn't he? He has to sign. There's no doubt about it. He has to sign.
I think both clubs, if both clubs agree, they can cancel it.
Well, yeah, but
I'm saying
in the contract, if it says that if you play, it's an obligation to buy, then surely whichever club said that in the contract can't say no. Like, will not say no to it.
No. I think if both clubs agree, if Leicester go to Sport and say we can't afford to sign him, and Sport and say, yeah, actually, that's we want to keep him, then they'll just agree. But that won't be the case. After the 1st of July, you'll start to see, FFP or football now is very political in terms of profit and sustainability. Here we go. Look, yeah, Cassidy, Dewsbury-Hall swap maybe.
I was
starting to like him. I
can't lie. When at the start of the season, I was calling him a donkey every single week. The moment we did lose him, and we started going downhill a tiny bit, I was like, do you know what? I feel like we kind of miss him because we needed someone different in that role. When indeed he wasn't doing the job he was, because he's still not an 8. Indeed, he's not an 8. So you need somebody in that box. Like Enzo said, when he came in, he's always in the box ready to do what he needs to do. Again, he wasn't the greatest player, but he's a better 8 than Ndidi in a way. People are going to shout me for that as well, but indeed, he's not an 8. He's not.
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Amari Hutchinson and Cassidy for Dewsbury-Hall. Would you take that?
What's that? Dewsbury-Hall for what?
Amari Hutchinson and Cassidy.
I don't know too much about Amari Hutchinson, to be honest.
Well,
was he at Ipswich last season?
Yeah, he did well. Championship tax though. It's the same with Dewsbury-Hall. It's championship in it. So
maybe.
The pair of them, I think it's not terrible. Anyway, there's no point in getting into it because we don't even know if Chelsea are offering a swap deal yet. Brighton are though. Brighton, just to remind people before we finish, Jacob Moder has apparently completed his first, his medical at Leicester. Dewsbury-Hall was in Brighton last night for his medical. Leicester would receive compensation in excess of 25 million. From what me and Jamie have heard from a certain source, it's 30 million. So the overall deal, 30 million plus Moder, or whether that looks like that or if it looks like 50 million and 20, we don't know. So yeah, something's definitely happening, Reedy. I think we'll know this weekend. Personally, I think it'll be rushed through before the 30th of June.
Again, I do believe in Fabrizio showing what he says, but then after what happened the other day or the other week, I'm not believing anything now from him. Unfortunately, I wish I would, because again, he was my always main source of everything, because every single thing he put out was complete facts. But after he deleted his tweet, I don't know.
I think it was more the deleting of the tweet. Just maybe quote it and explain, oh, I've got this wrong. That would have been much better. But he deleted it and just thought.
But then I'd always think everything he gets told or he finds out is true. Yeah, so maybe it did happen. It just then it just completely just reversed on it. I don't know.
No, what I believe happened. Just a side note. I believe that he was right, but he was slow. I think he was slow at reporting Potter was close. From what we've seen, Potter was close, and it just flipped very quickly. Whatever, but yeah. Anyway, we'll end it there. Obviously, Reedy, Phil, Sam, you'll I'm sure go live next week in the office if anything happens. Hopefully, we'll have some ins, in out, shake it all about. Hopefully, we'll have some ins soon to talk about. Hopefully, we'll have a Fatu deal to announce. Reedy, that'll be a nice start. Yeah, that'll be a nice start to pre-season. And then, yes, obviously, Steve Cooper, Steve Cooper is now the man. So we'll see what happens. We'll see who he wants to bring in.
Yeah, you can't wait to see.
We can't be negative. We can't be negative. No, we're not allowed to be. No, we're not allowed to be negative, are we? We can't be negative. Even though everybody was negative about Enzo last year, we can't be negative about Cooper. So there we go. All right, mate. Cheers. We'll catch everyone later. Thanks for leaving your comments. Thanks for leaving your likes. Hit the like button again quickly if you haven't already before you go. Hit the subscribe button, and we will see you very, very soon. Cheers.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, Everards, Barlow Blinds, Pukka Pies, Car Leasing, Distillers Direct, Hollogram, Take Me, Newby Co, The Fox's Arms and Rainbows. Run by the fans, for the fans. Follow us on socials at Leicester Fan TV and visit leicesterfantv.com for all the latest news, views and videos.